Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you doing? It's nice to see you again.
Great, George. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you again. I'm glad we're getting, to do this conversation. I feel like we haven't talked enough ever. We're always like, bumping into each other at conferences, but then we'd never quite like get to sit
Yes.
down.
Yes.
So,
Insufficient time. It's always insufficient time.
yes. All right, so I'm going to jump right into it because there's so much I honestly want to cover. I don't even know if I can get it done in like 30 minutes. So I want
Hi.
to
Go for it.
we have so many things that we love that we share in common. Okay, so the first thing is I want to hear about the craziest, most obnoxious use of AI that you have ever seen in a marketing workflow. Anything that you felt was amazing.
Yeah. Anytime somebody is like, oh, we just run all the copy through Chat GPT, I was like, well, good luck with that. But also I think the one that really came to mind is the recent kerfuffle we saw, kerfuffle, disaster, fiasco,
Hmm.
debacle that we saw
Mhm.
in Glasgow, Scotland a few weeks ago with this.
Right.
Yeah, where they basically used mid-journey images to convince people that it was gonna be like this magical wonderland, and they showed up to an empty warehouse and kids got 2 jelly beans. I could not think of a more illustrative example of the gap between the promise and the reality of using
Yeah.
AI in
Yeah.
marketing. That was just, and also super sad for the kids. I mean, just
Yeah.
think of this, the marketing disparity between reality and what was promised was so bad, people
Yeah.
called the police. Like, that's what happened, right? They were like, "I just brought my kids to an empty warehouse. This is a nightmare, and I don't feel safe, so I'm gonna call the police."
The lady behind the counter, it really did look like a meth lab. That was on point.
Yeah, yeah. So, that is fraud. That is fraud, and
Yep.
that's what we're seeing. And I think we will start to see more consequences that
Mm.
make it, disadvantageous to do that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So, for example,
Permanently
everyone is
damaged.
talking yeah, everyone is talking about the Google algorithm update, which is
Mm.
really cranking hard on trying to clamp down on low quality AI generated copy, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of people are gonna see sites traffic just tank, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's the future of search anyway. So I mean, it was only a matter of time before they did that.
Yes.
Uh, with the thing with the event guys though, while we're on that, I mean, once you generate an image on Midjourney or any of these, you're setting your expectations a little high, even by even
Yeah.
if they were the most amazing decorators in the world, there is
Yeah.
no way they would have made it look
Yeah,
like
you
that.
I guarantee you your prop designers and your set designers cannot match a diffusion model. It's just
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's fantastical.
Yeah.
But I would also say that this is probably we're going to start to see similar disparities, elsewhere in places we don't expect. I don't know how many people saw this news, but AI generated images were showing up, for DoorDash, right? And
Okay.
so like restaurants that are managed by multiple entities, like you go and you see like, well, what does the pasta look like or whatever, right? And these were
Okay.
clearly like mid-journey generated or similarly diffusion based generated model imagery, but it was like physically impossible. Like some of the shrimp had two tails, or like the plate sort of
Oh
blended in with the tablecloth or what. And when you start to create those trust issues, it
yeah.
really,
Mhm.
like, pollutes the ecosystem, right?
Mhm.
And this is an interesting test case. So, I I'm pretty sure it was DoorDash, but DoorDash says, like, "Hey, if you can't afford photography, like, as part of, being on our platform, we will send photographers to you." If you dig deeper into the story, a lot of restaurateurs were saying, like, "Yeah, well, the people you send to me, like, aren't really, like, the best quality photographer, or it takes, like, multiple t" anyway, so I don't know who's generating the images. A lot of the restaurants were unaware that that their food was being represented that way, but that is, like, really corrosive to trust, and I don't know, like, ask any marketer, like, once you lose trust, I mean, that is a very uphill battle, so
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, that I think it's damaging also because it spreads to like other potential future markets, right? Like in the sense
Yeah.
that you literally would have to change your name. I mean, you'd have to change,
Yes. Yeah.
especially
And
for
if and like the other people who don't do that,
yeah,
I don't know, now are their images getting called into question? Like, it just creates this,
yeah,
distrust
exactly, yeah.
across the media sphere.
Yeah. And again, like it's expectation setting. You cannot have such a great plate of pasta or those Willy Wonka style images coming out of
Yeah.
Midjourney and expect it to be anything close to what you're actually going to eat. I mean, come on, it's just
Yeah.
not going to work.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was about AI in your workflow. Have you had a lot of success with bringing that into your workflow? What does that look like? I'm such a junkie for
Yeah.
these.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I have, like, a process is the same every day, but there are tools I certainly use. Um, and I might be more contrarian here in the sense that I use more point solutions now instead of trying to, like, just jam AI onto everything.
Mhm.
So, for example, I have built a handful of GPTs as an experiment for myself to see if I can, for example, maintain similar structure for outlines or tone. Or I also built GPTs to do competitive analysis. So I kind of want like the same output every time so I can cross compare rather
Okay.
than like do the messy qualitative and sort of have notes that are hard to reconcile. Whereas I can still do the analysis, but I want the output to have kind of the same bullet points or the same structure so that I can compare those things. I also am a big fan of Gamma, which is a presentation, an AI, generative AI presentation tool. So I probably don't have to tell any marketer, like, how many hours have you lost to your life spent on aligning things in PowerPoint or getting them to look just right, right? So Gamma, I use a written outline that I control, but it generates the slides, and or in this case, it can also be a PDF or whatever you need it to be, but everything is aligned and responsive, and it has saved me hours of, like, trying to make everything look just right. um, and then Guide is another app that I commonly use for
Yeah.
demo videos. I'm a
Hmm.
really big fan of them. They're shipping a lot of product. They're very open to feedback, and it has dramatically reduced the amount of time it takes to produce demo videos from, like, if you record a loom, I mean, it's great, but there's a lot of ums and uhs, and you got to get it in one take. Guide, you just like record the screen, it creates captions. I The captions have a pretty high fidelity for the most part, but I like that you can edit them. And there is the flexibility of using either an AI generated voice or you can do the voiceover, but it still cuts production time down from maybe 26 minutes per Loom video down to 6 minutes for those. It's incredible. Like, that's a huge time savings.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
also think that it's a good user experience. My hope is that the actual information being conveyed is much clearer,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
you don't have to, like, follow my cursor and hear me narrate the whole thing. It's really
Yeah.
like, click here, do this, do that. I mean, that's what I want as a user.
Hmm.
Somebody showing me how to do something. I don't want to have to, like, follow all of your documentation on one screen and
Yeah.
then try to replicate it for myself.
Yeah. I love the way guide and intercom mesh together. Can make like an
Mhm.
entire product guide just using those two things. That
Yeah.
was fantastic. Somebody asked about what was the name of that tool. It's Guide with two D's,
Yes.
GUIDDDE, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then any other tools that you love while we're on the subject of tools before I circle back to those GPTs you were telling me about?
Well, I also, like, here's the thing about AI, like, it's now sort of embedded in a lot of things that you take
Mhm.
for granted, right? Like generative fill,
Yeah.
wherever in Photoshop, even
Yeah.
in the Magic Studio and Canva. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, again, humans are really bad at novelty. Like, everything that is, like, straight up magic feels like old hat now, but I don't
Hmm.
know if everyone remembers Canva 2 years ago when you had to resize something, you basically had to start from scratch and, like, copy paste and, like, shrink and resize, but, like, to be able to say, like, "I want this 1200 by 1200," and you just tell it, like, "Make it 1200 by 627," like, and it resizes
It'll work.
everything.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I wanna sort of, like, demystify, like, you like that is an incredible time savings, right? Like being able
Yeah,
to iterate
absolutely.
on creative really quickly is really helpful.
What about tooling for the podcast? Because you have such a wonderful podcast, Bare Knuckles and Brass Tacks. So I'd love to know about that.
Yes, yes. I think a lot of people use Descript. I have not because I am a sound engineer nerd and I still get into the guts of like adjusting the audio levels and stuff. But
Okay.
I am porting over some of the production to Descript for snippets, like audiogram snippets. And then
Hmm.
there are several other useful tools for transcription, which is helpful for us because we are in the midst of my co-host, the other George and I are in the midst of writing a book. And so trying to mine all of the insights out of the interviews, like being able to draw from the transcript and feed it into like a Claude LLM, for example, is very valuable. And
Ah, nice.
that's where I would tell other people is like it is called generative AI, and there are specific reasons for that. But I am less enamored with the generation than I am with the data processing power, right? Like the
Yeah,
ability to crunch large amounts of conversational transcripts or competitor websites or whatever.
yeah,
That's like the true
yeah,
blue genius to me because then I can get to the creative work faster. That's
yeah.
what I would like other people to get to.
That's very insightful. That's true. Most people are still kind of just scratching the surface of how to use it. And prompt engineering is not something a lot of people know well, but just the right set of prompts, and you get like to be able to put a huge amount of data into this and just let it give you what you would have spent hours doing analytics, visibility. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think
the next,
that's like unlocks new areas, right? I've always said that I think marketers would prefer to have really lengthy qualitative conversations with customers, right? Rather than sending out sort of like, 1 to 5 rate us scales, but they
Mhm.
could never do anything with all of that information, right? If you have 100 customers, that would produce a lot of information, and you're usually like, "Well, I don't have time for that, so I'll do a 0 to 5 scale, and then I can just crunch those numbers and have some percentages or whatever." But now with those transcripts, I think you can, and you can identify patterns faster than any human could ever do because you could just put it through these LLMs and spot patterns and try to get to trends faster than you could normally.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Mimi Rose the other day, and she said something like that. She was saying that her immediate use for it was always to like put in things like, for
Mhm.
example, like a CV or resume of a marketer, and then like see how it performs or how it looks, and just take it back out, and that way she can like see if she has to adjust it and stuff like that. So it's
Mm,
basically about just seeing how it bears out against other data points. So those things were um, either rarer, more like higher end, I think, use cases
yeah.
in. I haven't seen a lot of people doing that.
Well,
Um,
and here's one really interesting use case. So last year when Danny Wolf and I did our study about RSA messaging, one of the things that sort of came out of that was this idea that a lot of marketers are we're fixated on the messaging because we're in the product, right? And
mhm,
so there are lots of bells and whistles that we want to talk about. There are features that
yeah.
we want to talk about. We fall into this buzzword traps, jargon, whatever. If you ask the average marketer, how does your customer explain your product to their peers? They might have a hard time, right? Because you might say, I have like this next gen, automation engine, whatever the hell.
Mhm.
But then that CISO is going to bump into their friend at the hall in RSA and be like, oh, yeah, you should go check out this vendor. I really think they can help me with my resolution triage and like getting my tools to talk to one another better with low code workflows.
Mhm.
Do you know that? Maybe you should talk in that language. But that's the sort of stuff that you could start having your CSMs talk to your customers. Just literally ask them like, we love that you're using the tool, you're getting utility out of it. Like, how would you describe what we do to your peers? And then like suddenly be able to like use the LLMs to structure that data and spot trends? And are there words that they use that you do not use? That disconnect could be very valuable. Like you could close something on your competitors that they're not doing because if they're all competing at the level of buzzword or jargon, and you have something that speaks straight to the use case that your customers speak to, I mean, that's gold.
That's really nice. RSA, oh man, it's going to be so many people. Just being able to distinguish yourself in any way and being able
Yeah.
to, you know, Carvanish, any sort of like advantage there is always an advantage.
Well, I love that because the RSA booth designs have to be in by, I want to say December or something like that. Like
Mhm.
last year, there was very little AI because, you know, ChatGPT had come in, but like the wave hadn't hit yet, but the designs were
Yeah,
already in. So we will really see how much AI shows up this year.
yeah.
That'll be the real
Last year's
litmus.
Black Hat floor was, I mean, you couldn't walk
Yes,
3 feet
yes,
without
yes,
like 14 different people saying the word AI around you. You could just
yes,
like, if you're listening to conversations as you pass, oh
yes.
my God.
Yeah.
Uh,
Eventually, I hope some of that will die down because, like, as you said, like on a show floor, if you are shouting it and the person across from you is shouting it and the person next to you is shouting it, like, is it really a differentiator? Like, then it's just white noise, right? It's just
yeah.
everyone's
It's
saying
just
this.
noise and it's intimidation almost. I feel like so many potential buyers, part of the industry, it's misleading and it's at that point they can just say AI anything and they're like hoping for like the next round of
Yes.
funding.
Yes.
It's so funny.
I mean, that is also true for marketers. I mean, I would say if anyone is listening,
Great.
you really do need to go beyond just these end user products and try to get a foundational understanding of machine learning because otherwise they're just going to trick you. Like they're going to sell you this martech nonsense that's like, oh, it's an AI platform that matches your customer to, your perfect ICP using all of, and you're like, I kind of believe you, but it says AI, and like I'm under all this pressure to bring AI into the business, so like you can be sold a bill of goods unless you can ask and interrogate the questions like, what is the model that you're using? What is it trained on? Are you using third-party models? Like you have to have an informed education about that. It's like going into the workforce and not knowing how the internet works. It'd be very problematic. People could just sell you all this genie in a bottle stuff, and then you'll be left holding the bag.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now people are also grappling with building um SEO content that
Mm,
can actually be scraped by an AI. So there's all of that as well. And it
yeah,
can't be built a lot completely by AI, of course. So it has to be one of those like, you have to find the right balance, or at least you give the higher level points and have, the talking points ghost written, stuff like that. So that's another uptake, and like there's a whole trend around that now. So at
yeah. I
some point,
mean, I say
black.
you're chasing shadows after a point
Yeah,
because in the end, it's like who's going to give you money? The
yeah.
AI is not going to buy your
That's
SaaS,
yeah.
so you
So you're
should
still selling to
really,
humans.
yeah,
Absolutely.
you sell to humans. Focus on the humans.
Yeah, no, I feel like the human element is going to be more valuable um, in the
Oh, for sure.
next few years, more powerful than anything else, because I mean that's what's going to distinguish you. It still does mean that we have to keep up a certain amount and quality and pace that is breakneck, honestly, and it can be very overwhelming to a lot of marketers and a lot of people just learning to use AI. I've even heard a lot of cringing from developers who are trying to learn to generate code and then check it and then drill that because
Mm.
everybody around them is doing it, and then now they're under pressure to keep up with that pace. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and there are a few studies out that are just showing, like, the quality of code is beginning to degrade. So you do
yep,
still have to focus on the fundamentals, like, you still have to lean on your strengths and use them as tools, but not, like, think that they're gonna, like, solve your problem for you. Like, ultimately,
yeah,
AI is not gonna, like, force people to buy your product. Like, they
yeah.
still have to be convinced, and you still have to connect with them. I do think that post COVID and now sort of into this AI wave, as you pointed out, that like the real human to human interaction is really, really, really going to matter. Like that trust is going to be like a huge premium for any brand.
That's true. It's going to always be that thing that you resonate with, right? Like I had another
Mhm.
interview with Catherine Dollar, and she is a storyteller for marketers, and she always says that is like you're always appealing to only four things. I think she said it was survival, stability, and a couple of other things. I'm spacing. I'll put it in the comments. But there were like only four things that you ever connect to on the human level,
Yes.
which you have to appeal to in any messaging, in anything that or you have a human rating or you want to make a connection. It's always
Yeah.
going to be
Or
those.
or as yeah, or like the heart, the mind, the gut, the ethos, pathos, and logos. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like Aristotle, right? It's like over 2,000 years old. Like
Yes.
that's the fundamentals are still valid.
Yeah, and when you're slicing through the noise, that is what's going to keep you. You have to keep looking up from your copy every now and then. And wait, is it hitting those things? Is it doing that? Is it
Yeah, if
appealing
I
to?
if I see the words in the ever evolving digital landscape,
Oh my God, I know
I was
that
like,
is
"Oh, you
like
wrote that with ChatGPT. I don't trust anything you're saying now."
that is every paragraph's like first five words. I think
Yes.
like at that
Yes.
point. Yeah,
I
yeah.
would love to put that in quotes as a Boolean search into Google for Google Trends. I would like to see, like, where the like, spikes in the last year.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's there. Yeah, that's true. Actually, that would be a great way to like figure out who's using AI too much and like.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
I'm
I
sure
think it was
somebody's I'm sure somebody has some, like, really snarky Chrome extension or something that will just, like, highlight all the GPT, uh,
yeah, I'm sure there is.
platitudes and cliches.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's this site called There's an AI for that
Yeah.
dot com that goes like you also have AIs that detect other AIs, right? So yeah. Okay, I wanted to ask you one final thing. What do you really, really not like about this? So, for example, I mean, just to give you context on why I'm asking you,
Mhm.
is even when something bad happens, right? Like the misuse of AI and the way people are kind of getting on the bandwagon without really understanding prompt engineering, how to make it work for you, how to bring your human element into it, and all of that. You still have like something good coming out of it. So in the sense that I feel like there's an uptick of experiential
Yes.
marketing, and
Yes.
that's going to be in trend in the next few years because everybody wants to feel that connection and they want
Mhm.
to be. So do you see other trends or predict other trends that will kind of take off based off of this current issue?
Oh, crystal ball. Um, some days it's clearer than others. I do think we are going to start to see so I'll take it in a few parts. Let me AI first. I do think we're going to start to see narrower, more domain specific models rather than this like the promise of these like large foundation models that can do it all. So I would be on the lookout for that as like for marketing use cases, whether it's like data crunching or whatever. Um, as it relates to marketing practice, I am hoping that if we can speed up all of the nonsense garbage that we have to do, like pivot tables and, you know, basically, why are we still using Excel? Holy hell, right? We've got like million GPU data centers and we're all still using Excel. That's a failure of human imagination, is what it comes down to, right? So I would ask CMOs, like, do you know the high friction points in your team? Like, do you understand what your team is doing in the trenches and like where they're getting stuck? Is it like they're getting stuck in Slack, they're getting stuck in email, they're getting stuck in some sort of data triage that's super annoying? Because my great
Mm,
hope is that a lot of this can free them up to
mhm,
do more of that creative thinking. Like
mhm,
I was saying before, we can now have an excuse, a legitimate business reason to spend more time talking to customers because we have better ways to analyze that data. That is like a super powerful argument that before, if you'd said like, I would like to spend hours talking to customers, they'd be like, I don't see the ROI in that. But like, if you do the upfront or you work it into your process, like just have the CSM ask these questions every time they check in, you now have this like fount of wisdom that you can actually mine and use in a useful way to connect with your customers. And then to your final point, I do think we are going to see an emphasis, or I should hope, after we get over the shiny object infatuation period that we're in, that like, okay, a lot of breathless hype. We spent a lot of API token credits on GPTs, but
Yep.
like, let's get back to the basics. What does it mean to talk to our customers? Do we go to big shows? Do we go to roundtables? Like, how do we create experiences with the product that connect and matter? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, that's like the people have to use the tooling. I would love to see more events that take products to the actual end users. Everyone's enamored with the CISO or the VP of SecOps, but they never use your platform. Like they might
Mhm.
check in on the dashboard, but who are the people hands on keys, and how can you connect to the SOC analysts in a meaningful way, or the incident responders, whoever's using your products, the developers? If you're an AppSec, right, you have AppSec engineer. Like, how can we get to the people who are actually trying to help and learn more about how they use it, and connect with them in meaningful ways?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been putting in so much work on a completely new side of training, which is AI and LLM security, because everybody's building it directly into their tools. Like you said, so much of it is built into tools now. So it's like that has to be, that has to be, that's
Mhm.
something that even developers are struggling with. They're building it in, yes, but yeah. So that was everything that I wanted to discuss today. I'm so glad we got to be able to sit down.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that we could possibly like go over today before I see you at RSA, of course?
I can't think of anything. We covered a lot of ground in the time that we had, but I would just say like, oh, I would say as a marketing team, instead of kind of like doing this on your own or sort of like dancing around it, to like really formalize it as a team. And I think
Mhm.
that this is hard to carve the time out for, because marketing teams are always under the gun, deliver, deliver, deliver. But I think if you're very intentional about like, let's come together and like every week someone on the team shares a use case or some tool that they were trying, and just like experiment, but do it intentionally. Like, okay, we've all decided we hate these kinds of reports. Is there an automation that we can use? Or we've all decided that like we were all doing this one kind of data analysis just because it's how we've always done it, but maybe we don't
Mhm.
need to do it anymore. Like, but you got to
Yeah,
come together as a team. I think right now I see a lot of teams like, copywriter over here uses something, and a designer over
yeah,
here uses something, and like you just got to bring it together. And I think because no one feels like they have the permission to do that, but you really
yeah.
have to set aside the time to approach it with greater intention.
Like an integrated AI powered workflow.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
just have like, yeah, it's like basically think of it as a developer stand-up meeting. Like, what did we
Right.
want to
Yeah,
tackle
that's
this week? Or who was or maybe even like a retro meeting. Like, what did we try to use this week? Did we see any success? Do we think we should keep
right.
using it? I don't know, but do it as a team, not as like individuals.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I haven't quite understood how people are doing, and I don't know if they are because I haven't had any good answers about this, is the thing that kind of sucks a lot of time for marketers is SQLs and MQLs. There's always going to be lead qualification that becomes um, depending on the scale and depending on the product, it can even take up something like 30% of a marketer's time or 30% of
Yeah.
a sales executive's time. So that's something I'm really interested in, like learning how people are able to kind of get out of AI, if at all. I haven't gotten any great
Can I
answers, but
can I offer a really contrarian perspective? I
yeah.
Well, one, I don't believe in MQLs. I think that's like a made up thing. That's like a whatever. That's like a fake metric that marketers made up to feel good about themselves. Um, at the end of the day, everyone is responsible for revenue, right? And so
Yeah.
instead of using AI, you need to like sit down as people and be like, marketing to sales. Let's all agree we're optimizing for one metric, which is first meeting complete. That's
Yeah.
like the highest degree of qualification. So, like, I don't care if they downloaded a white paper, doesn't mean anything. Obviously, I believe that they shouldn't be gated. So, downloading a
Yep.
white paper, they shouldn't have filled out the form anyway. They came by the booth. Cool. Did it lead to a
Mhm.
meeting? No.
Hmm.
There. Yes,
Yeah,
no.
it
Bing, bang,
means
boom.
nothing.
Yes,
Yeah,
right. And so, like, just get it to first meeting complete. That's what everyone could. But I will say this, like, what that means is when you approach it that way, it completely changes the way you structure your booth staff and how you interact,
mhm,
because what you're trying to do is like, how do I get this experience to lead to that first meeting, not how many badges did I scan? That's like the difference between those two metrics, because the badge
yeah,
scan is like totally worthless. Last year, I was going around and I said, I am not your ICP. I got to scan your badge anyway. I was like, dude, I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm not even a buyer. I have to scan
yeah,
your badge. It's like, do you hear yourself? Like, let's get out of like these legacy ways of thinking and like doing it just because we've always done it. And let's just put some
yeah.
light bulbs behind it.
Oh my God, if I get started on the boot staff thing, oh my goodness. It's like,
Oh,
it is insane. It's like, okay, they have that app. So we were at Black Hat in booths for the last 2 years. And we had a booth in Startup City. And it's crazy the amount, I don't know what Kool-Aid people are on, but they really feel like we have to go ahead and scan every single batch, every single batch. Like these are people who haven't even stopped at your booth. They're
y'all,
just,
I have sorted a lead list from RSA. After you cut out the trick-or-treaters, the college professors, the consultants, the VARs, like it went from like 396 to like 83,
yeah,
so
it
I don't
actually
know what
screws you.
and so I would say if you are optimizing for SQL or first meeting complete, that helps that booth staff understand like, oh, this is what we do. How can I help you? Well, I'm really here for the t-shirt. Great. Here it is. See ya. Like,
Yeah,
you don't have to scan
take
them.
the
Like, it
t-shirt.
actually optimizes the human behavior at the booth. I have a lot of
Absolutely.
thoughts about booth stuff. If you think about it, I'm on the soapbox now. If you think about it, the biggest problem with events is a data loss problem, which is really ironic for cybersecurity, right? Because you and I have had a great interaction at the booth. And in my
Mhm,
head, I'm like, I could definitely turn that into a meeting. I think that she even said, like, I'm gonna
mhm,
have budget coming up in Q3. Let's talk.
mhm.
By the time it gets to the sales organization, all of that high context data has been lost, and it has been
Exactly. Yeah,
collapsed into you are a row in
yeah,
a spreadsheet given to a BDR, and I'm going to treat you the same. So really, once you start thinking about how you can treat those meetings, like, it actually fundamentally alters your entire booth. I have a whole workshop that I do called like the field marshal, because it actually requires a different way to staff the booth. But anyway, we're far afield from AI, and I think this is the point, that like some of these problems are actually like very human problems, and if
very
we
human.
just like, let me smear some AI on that, it's not going to solve it, right? Because it's still a human problem at the end of the day.
Absolutely. On that note, I will let you go. Thank you so much, George. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It was so
Yeah,
nice
it's been a
talking to you.
blast. Yeah, thanks for talking again.
Thank you. Bye. Um,